I told myself it was just content. I told myself everyone exaggerates online. I told myself if he really loved me, he'd understand that this was for us. That's the script, isn't it? The arrangement nobody writes down but everybody accepts when your rent depends on views and your phone becomes a tiny casino that pays you in dopamine and direct deposits. You soft launch a boyfriend, you hard launch a fight, you capture the moment he sighs, rubs his eyes and says, "Can we not do this right now?" While you hold the camera at a flattering angle and the comments fill with "Girl, leave him," and blink twice if you need help. I was 28. I had 312,000 followers on TikTok, and another 45K on Instagram Reels. I'd started with food talk, then slid into skincare talk, and eventually discovered the algorithm's favorite food, drama. My drama. Our drama. His name is Mark. Not Mark with a K, like my audience kept spelling it. Mark with a C, the kind of soft detail that made him feel like a nuance, like a person, which is exactly what made him bad content. He didn't fit a villain arc. He's an operations coordinator at a logistics company. Organized, steady, the kind of man who actually reads the instruction booklet before building the IKEA dresser. The kind who sets calendar reminders for oil changes and dentist appointments and tells you, without condescension, that your wiper blades should be replaced before the rainy season. The kind of man who is good for you but boring to the story. Unless I made him interesting. The first video that blew up, like really blew up, was barely about him. I stitched a creator ranting about bare minimum boyfriends, and added my story of how Mark forgot our anniversary. We weren't even officially dating yet on that day. We'd been seeing each other for 2 months and had done sushi and a bad movie on a Friday that happened to be the date we met. He didn't forget anything, he just didn't memorialize it with a gift. But he forgot was cleaner, punchier. I filmed myself in my kitchen, ring light warming the laminate cabinets, wearing a robe that looked more luxe on camera than it felt in person. I told the story like a rom-com monologue, eyebrows doing a lot of work. I ended with a laugh, a shrug and a line. Ladies, if he wanted to, he would. 3 million views in 48 hours. 10,000 new followers. A brand DM from a jewelry company offering me a sponsored post. A dozen comments that said dump him and know your worth and I'm so mad on your behalf. Mark saw it because his co-worker's girlfriend sent it to him. He came over that night with Thai food and a careful question. Was that about me? It's a composite, I said. You know how stories are. They're like vibes. He nodded slowly. It made me look kind of negligent. It's a bit, I said, pressing my cheek to his chest. Everybody knows it's embellished. He didn't argue. That was always the problem. He was reasonable. It's hard to get a dramatic clapback from someone who actually wants to solve a problem. He didn't slam doors or raise his voice. He asked, "Can we talk about boundaries?" and then waited for me to answer. It made me look understimulated, like the only way to get a rise out of him was to throw a match at gasoline that didn't exist. So I learned to fake the gasoline. I filmed prank videos where I hid his keys and recorded the moment he patted his pockets, frowned and retraced his steps. I edited the footage so it looked like he stormed around. He didn't. I inserted a clip from earlier where he was frustrated about his fantasy football league, and spliced it right after the keys bit to create more tension. I told him I'd staged the prank after the fact, and he said, "Okay, but please don't record me before coffee." The comments said, "Red flag, he's so angry." And I smiled into my phone like a person who just found a $20 bill on the sidewalk. I did a video titled The Silent Treatment Test where I asked my audience, if I don't text him for 24 hours, will he notice? And then showed screenshots of our message thread with my green bubbles silent, and his turning blue at 9:12 a.m., 12:47 p.m., and 4:10 p.m. The captions were real. I just cropped out the part where I'd messaged him in Slack about dinner, because we worked from home together that day. He failed the test. I wrote, and 100,000 people nodded along. The sponsors started stacking. A wallet brand, a meal prep service, a budgeting app that told me exactly how my spending reflected my attachment style, which felt like a personal attack. We upgraded our apartment with my sponsorship money. Bigger kitchen, in-unit washer/dryer, and floor-to-ceiling windows that made sunsets look like God had chosen my living room as his background for the day. Mark covered the base rent, I covered the add-ons. It felt like a partnership if I didn't look too hard at the ledger of what, exactly, we were trading. He brought stability, I brought spectacle. Somewhere in that period, I started filming at night. The ring light turned my face into a smooth, symmetrical coin. I'd prop my phone on the dresser, and talk to it like a friend I could trust more than Mark. Because the phone understood that a story doesn't need to be true to be true. You know? An emotional truth, a vibe. Those can carry an algorithm even if the events didn't happen in the order I claimed. I learned the trick of it. One specific detail, his habit of folding dish towels into precise thirds. One big feeling, I felt unseen. One simple villain move, he scrolled during our conversation. Then I could take a bow while the comments wrote the rest. The night I overstepped, it didn't feel like that. It felt like a Tuesday. We were out to dinner with his mom. Linda, a lively woman who wore bright scarves and said darling, like she was British even though she's from Ohio. She'd just told a story about Market 6, building a Lego city with traffic cones and a municipal bus lane. And I made a mental note. Bus lane equals he's always needed control. We split the check. We were home by 9. Mark was clearing plates while I wiped the counter, and he said casually, I got the promotion. I blinked. I set the sponge down. Wait. What? Operations manager, he said, trying to be nonchalant and failing, the joy blooming in his face like a sunrise. It came through today. Starts next month. We hugged for a long time. His heart thumped against my cheek. And because I am not a monster, I meant it when I said, I'm so proud of you. But somewhere during that embrace I also saw the thumbnail. Me surprised face, hand over mouth, him blurred in the background, white text. He told me this over the dishes. I saw the caption. After everything, he finally stepped up. I saw the comments. Men only share good news when it's convenient for them. I saw the sponsored opportunity from a career coaching platform, just waiting to DM me if I posted something about communication at home and at work. I filmed it the next morning while he was in the shower. So last night, I whispered at 1.25x speed. After months of me telling him I needed better communication, he drops that he got a promotion while he's wiping down a plate. I widened my eyes. Like I'm a co-worker he's updating, not a partner. Am I crazy to want a little confetti? I left out that we actually did confetti. We had mini champagne splits in the fridge for wins, and we used one. I left out that he'd told me manager candidates had to keep quiet until it was official, and he'd literally told me the day it was. I left out that his love language is acts of service, and his version of celebrating is cleaning the kitchen, so I can film without mess. The video hit 2 million views by lunchtime. And that's when his boss saw it. The company's social media policy is strict. They don't want anything that could be construed as disparaging the business or its managers. In the video, I didn't name the company, but internet people are better than private investigators when they smell a trail. Someone found my old post from his company picnic where a branded banner was visible in the background and tagged them under my rant. Y'all promote men who treat their girlfriends like afterthoughts? The thread grew teeth. Mark got called into HR. He didn't lose the promotion, but he got a formal warning. Be careful about public content that can be associated with the company. He came home that night carrying a quiet I couldn't name. Why didn't you tell me you posted that? He said softly. I tell you everything I post, I said, instantly defensive because guilt is a liar that makes you deal in technicalities. I told you I filmed something about last night. You said you filmed a celebration, he said. You didn't say you made me look like an ass. I folded my arms like a barricade. It's my job, Mark. It's our life, he said. And then he paused. Can we make some rules? We tried. We wrote them out on printer paper like camp counselors making a cabin charter. No filming before coffee or after 10 p.m. Ask before posting anything that involves the other person's work/family. No medical stuff, no legal stuff, no private arguments posted within 24 hours of having them. If one person says a video crosses a line, it doesn't go up. I taped the paper to the side of the fridge. We signed it at the bottom like a treaty. The treaty lasted 5 weeks. The first crack was stupid. He asked me. So gently it sounded like a suggestion. To please not post the clip of him cutting his finger while slicing a bagel. He bled a lot. I thought it was slapstick. He thought it was humiliating. That one crosses a line, he said. It's a teachable moment, I said. Bagel safety. No. I posted it 3 days later. I told myself the statute of limitations had passed. He didn't fight. He stopped reading my captions. The second crack was a trip I booked without asking. A travel brand offered to comp a weekend in Miami if I posted 3 reels and 8 stories per day. I checked his calendar. No big meetings. Then texted. Pack for warm weather face blowing ikista. He asked if we could talk first. I said we'd talk at the airport. On the trip I filmed him asleep by the pool, zoomed on his snoring mouth, captioned it, when Bae takes my content creation job too seriously face with rolling eyes, and then I did a dance to a trending audio while he ordered us tacos. The video did numbers. The weekend did damage. Back home he tried again. I need you to choose me sometimes, he said. Not them. They are how we pay for this apartment, I said. They are the reason we can afford your new coffee machine and my hair appointments and the electric bill you never notice because the lights are always on for the ring light. He nodded. The nod said, I hear you. The eyes said, I wish you could hear me too. The third crack was a brand deal with a therapy app. They wanted me to talk about communication struggles in modern relationships. The script they sent might as well have been my guilty conscience. You ever wish he'd listen without fixing? Wish he'd validate your feelings first? I could have made a simple, honest video about how two people can love each other and still misunderstand. I could have told the truth, that I was terrified the views would go away if I stopped feeding them tension. Instead, I told the app one wanted to do a social experiment. The experiment was a setup. I bought a second phone and mounted it in the bookshelf facing the couch, camouflaged between a plant and a stack of books. I told myself it wasn't secret, because I'd mentioned I was trying a new angle in a video earlier that week, as if angles and hidden cameras were synonyms. I waited until he came home from a rough day, then asked him if he could take my car for an oil change because the light's been on forever, which was true. He said, I'll do it first thing Saturday. I said, so in other words, never. He blinked, tired. I said Saturday. I rolled my eyes like I was auditioning for a teen drama. I just feel like you don't prioritize me. And then I sat down and waited for him to either validate me or give me a soundbite I could use. He did neither. He pointed at the paper on the fridge. We're at hour 15. Can we not? I posted an edited version with bold captions. He never prioritizes me. I added sad music. I cropped out the fridge treaty. The therapy app loved it. The audience loved it. Mark's sister did not. She texted him the next day. Is she filming you without telling you now? That night he came home, stood in front of the bookshelf, and stared at the plant like it had personally betrayed him. He found the phone. He didn't say a word for a very long time. He took the treaty off the fridge and put it on the table between us. You broke all four, he said. I'm sorry, I said. I meant it. I also meant, but you don't understand my job, which is the kind of apology that has a trapdoor under it. I need you to stop, he said quietly. And here's the part where I did the dumbest thing I have ever done in any relationship. I said, or what? He looked at me for so long I felt my bones in my skin. Then he said, or I will leave. Dopamine is louder than consequence. I told myself he wouldn't. I told myself he was being dramatic. I told myself we would be fine after I hit my next brand milestone, after I passed 500,000 followers, after I did one last big story arc that would give me momentum, so I could pivot to something less messy like home renovation or hair tutorials. The arc arrived a week later. I found a hotel receipt in his jeans. It was for a king room. One night, downtown, the night he said he worked late. I did not ask him first. I did not hold the receipt up and choose my boyfriend over my audience. I went live. I started the live on a Sunday night at 8:03 p.m., prime time for couch scrollers. I told the story in the tearful confessional format that gets saved a lot. You guys, I found something. I showed the edge of the receipt, teased the name of the hotel, let the chat guess. The comments flew. Leave him. He's cheating. Go to the hotel and demand camera footage. I didn't say he cheated. I didn't have to. I said, this is not okay, and watched the numbers climb. 9K, 12K, 15K viewers. I pinned a comment by someone named at TruthHurts845. Men only become faithful when they lose access to you. The door opened. Mark stood there with 2 grocery bags, eyes moving from the ring light to the phone to me. He set the bags down slowly. He didn't rush me or the camera. He didn't yank the plug. He looked into the lens like it was a person he was about to fire. Then he turned to me. Hey, he said evenly, that terrible gentle voice that made me feel more ashamed than if he'd yelled. You found the hotel receipt. Do you want to explain? I demanded, heat licking up my neck as 18,000 tiny avatars leaned closer to their screens. Yeah, he said. My company put me up for the night because the pipe burst in our ceiling and our apartment was literally raining. Maintenance needed the place empty to fix it. You were at your mom's. I stayed at the hotel. The card is on my expense report. I told you. Twice. I remembered dimly, a text I'd skimmed while editing. Maintenance coming by 7. Might be a mess. They might comp me a hotel. At the time I'd replied, cool, and then added star emojis to a caption. There was one bed. I said, weakly, like that proved something. It was a hotel room, he said. Yes. The chat wobbled. A few people pasted? And receipts? And someone wrote, so she lied? And I felt the air leave the room. Mark didn't smirk. He didn't say I told you so. He looked very, very tired. I'm going to say this once, he said, still looking at me and not the camera. I did not cheat on you. I have never cheated on you. I have been on camera more in the last 6 months than I was in my entire life, and the only time I've wanted to be seen was by you, in our actual kitchen, without an audience. That's not how you want to see me, and that's your right. But I'm not going to be the villain in your show anymore. He reached into the grocery bag and pulled out a stack of printed papers. Who prints anything anymore? Mark does. He prints everything that matters. These are screenshots, he said, holding up a stapled packet. Of every post, every sponsorship contract, every prank, where you hid my stuff or edited my voice to sound angrier than it was. There's a copy for me and a copy for you. There's also a letter to the management company stating I'll be moving out at the end of the month. The lease is in my name. I'll pay the penalty. You can stay here if you can cover it. I'll help with the transition. My mouth was cotton. You're breaking up with me on live? I'm breaking up with you in our home, he said. You chose to turn our home into a stage. The chat was on fire. King. Protect your peace. Wait, why is he so calm? I'd be screaming. He's lying, look at his body language. No, she's lying, she made this a storyline. The dopamine turned to nausea. And this, he said, pulling one more thing out of the bag, is for Coco. He whistled, and our tiny rescue terrier came racing into the room. He knelt, put a new collar on her, and clipped a small, engraved tag in the shape of a bone. He looked up at me. I'm not using her for anything. It just has my phone number because the microchip still has my old one. I'll update the chip tomorrow. Something stupid inside me clawed for leverage. You can't take her, I said. My followers. Your followers do not decide who takes care of a dog, he said. Then softer. I'm not taking her. You are. You are good to her. She loves you. I'm updating the chip because I want her safe. That's it. He stood. He looked into the camera and did what I could not. He ended the live. He tapped the screen, closed the app, and the room went quiet except for the low hum of the fridge and the harsh whoosh of my own breathing. He put the papers on the table, the treaty on top. I'm not going to fight with you, he said. I'm going to pack some things and stay at my friend's place this week. We can talk about logistics with a mediator next week. I wish you well. He said it like a benediction. Like a man who still loved me enough to want good things for me even if those things no longer included him. I didn't follow him. I didn't throw myself on the floor like a trending audio that says, when he says it's over and you remember your first date. I stood rooted to the forward floor. I watched him move through the apartment. He took the bag with the papers, a week of clothes, his shaving kit, and a framed photo of us that he flipped face down before leaving on the dresser like a comment he didn't want to read again. The door clicked. The apartment exhaled. I was alone with Coco, the ring light, and the sound of my own narrative collapsing. The next day wasn't the worst. The day after that was. On day one my DMs were a mixed bag. Half girl he's manipulative and half hey I think you owe him an apology. I did what I do when I'm overwhelmed. I posted a video explaining my side, which was not a side so much as a frantic collage of rationalizations. I said I was scared of abandonment. I said I made art out of my life. I said he knew what he was signing up for dating a creator. Brand partners paused my campaigns. On day 2, his sister posted a 2-minute video, zero makeup, bad lighting, the kind of authenticity nobody can fake, politely asking my audience to stop harassing their mom at work and attaching 3 screenshots. 2 of my texts that contradicted my live story, 1 of his company email about the hotel. She didn't drag me. She didn't call me names. She wrote, "Please leave my family alone." That video did more damage than any clapback could have. People can handle a villain. They cannot handle a person who accidentally became the antagonist in someone else's life and refuses to acknowledge it. By the end of the week, I'd lost 21,000 followers. The comments switched from queen to yikes in record time. Some of the people who had cheered me on now used words like exploitative and narcissistic. And maybe they're right and maybe they're not, but the truth was simpler and colder. I'd been careless with a person who was careful with me. It's not that he won like a game. It's that he opted out of playing. And in the kind of life I'd built, that was the only way to win. The practical consequences came in a stack. He canceled Netflix and moved it to his new place. He sent me a spreadsheet of the utilities in my name and his, and offered to pay half the early termination fee if I wanted to move too. He arranged with his friend. Guess which friend? The IT guy from his office. To come by and remove the backup cameras from our bookshelf and bedroom wall, because he didn't want them in a home that no longer included him. I kept Coco. I kept the apartment for 2 months, then moved to a studio I could afford without brand deals. The studio is smaller than what my audience was used to and more honest than anything I've posted in a long time. The first night there I turned off my phone at 9 p.m. and heard the shape of quiet. The refrigerator ticking as it cooled, Coco's toenails on the floor as she circled and settled. The way your own breath sounds when it's finally the loudest thing in the room. A month after the breakup, he sent an email with the subject line, "For your records." Attached were 2 PDFs. One was a letter he'd sent his HR department documenting the harassment his family received after my live, and requesting stronger social media policy training. The other was a letter he'd written to me that he never sent. It wasn't long. It said, "I loved you for your brightness. I left you because you aimed it at me like a flashlight I hadn't agreed to stand under. I hope you find a way to share your stories without needing to make anyone into a villain, including yourself. Be well." I cried for 3 hours. There's a version of this story where I pivoted gracefully into accountability content and grew bigger than ever because the internet loves a redemption arc. I tried. I posted a video titled, "I Owe You and Him, an Apology," where I didn't use his name and didn't ask for forgiveness and didn't cry on purpose. It got decent views. It didn't fix anything. Sometimes the lesson isn't followed by applause. Sometimes it's just a lesson. What I know now is small and ordinary. You should ask before you film people. You should tell the truth even when the lie would get more likes. You should keep some parts of your life for yourself because that's how you know it's a life and not a performance. You should be the person your dog thinks you are, and if your dog sees you aim your brightness like a weapon, you should put the phone down and go outside, and let the sun be the only thing that lights you. 2 months after the breakup, I ran into him at the farmer's market. I was holding a bouquet of eucalyptus I'd bought, because TikTok says it makes your shower smell like a spa. He was with his friend, the IT guy, and a woman I didn't recognize at first because she had that new happiness glow. She had short hair, and the kind of smile that doesn't look in the mirror before it walks out the door. He saw me, nodded, and gave Coco the little chin scritch he always did. She wagged. Dogs forgive faster than people. "This is Maya," he said. "Hi," I said. "We know," she said gently, not unkind. "I liked your recipe for the tahini cookies." "Thanks," I said. I meant it. Then I did the thing that felt like the grown-up version of a viral apology. I backed away and let them enjoy their Saturday. I didn't try to film a bumping into my ex story. I didn't linger and make small talk to harvest a soundbite. I went home, hung the eucalyptus in the shower, and stood under it while the water beat down like weather I'd chosen. People sometimes DM me to ask if we'll ever get back together. I don't answer. That's not a story anymore. That's 2 people who tried, and 1 person who forgot the difference between content and love until the other person remembered it for both of us and left. Mark didn't humiliate me in a grand spectacle. He humiliated me the way a mirror does, by reflecting back what I was doing when I thought I wasn't being watched. The last video I posted about us wasn't a video at all. It was a still photo. The treaty we wrote, creased and coffee-stained, taped to a blank refrigerator in a new apartment. The caption said, "Boundaries are only real if you keep them when nobody's watching." It got 14,000 likes. No confetti. No sponsors. Just a few comments from people who recognize the kind of quiet that can grow a life. I still make content. Not as much. Not about him. I film cooking videos where the drama is whether the caramel seizes. I talk about the therapy I actually pay for instead of the therapy apps that want to pay me. I keep the parts of my life that could hurt someone else off the timeline. And when that itch comes, the one that says this would go viral, I pet Coco, take a breath, and ask, would this make me proud if the person in it watched? If the answer is no, I let it go. There are other stories. There always were. The night I moved into my studio, I found the ring light in a box labeled miscellaneous. I set it up and turned it on. It hummed. It made my face look symmetrical again. I stared into it and felt the old engine rev. I could talk. I could monologue. I could craft a tight 60-second parable about growth. Instead, I turned it off. I opened the window. The city leaked in, a siren far away, someone arguing about parking, a couple laughing. I put my phone face down and wrote this with a pen in a paper notebook. No angle. No edits. Just the true thing in the order it happened, as best as I could bear to tell it. And that is how I lost a man who treated me like a person and won something I didn't know I'd misplaced. Not my audience, not my brand. Myself. I wish I could end with a bang. I wish I could tell you he begged to take me back, or that I had a new boyfriend who loved being on camera, and that everything worked out like a content calendar. But the grown-up truth is quieter. The grown-up truth is that he stepped out of a story he didn't sign up for, and the absence of his body in the frame made room for the outline of his boundaries, and those educated mine. The grown-up truth is that the last thing he ever said to me in person, at the farmer's market, was, "Take care." I am trying to. If I ever write vows, to myself or to someone else, they will be short. I will not turn you into content. I will not turn me into a villain or a saint. I will love you in rooms where nobody can comment. That's the win. Not his or mine. The only one that matters.